let's try this again. I don't know why they call them smartphones. They don't seem all that smart to me. All right, well, I'm confident that we're going to get this figured out. Confident. All right. It's like deja vu all over again. I don't see. Oh, come on. Technology, please work. It walks you through it. I'm not sure what's going on. I wasn't on a jet ski today, John. Well, I don't know what to say, gentlemen. We're going to call an audible and we're going to talk for a minute here. Um, and we'll try this again. You know, such is life, right? Such is life. I'm waiting on my friend Ian Renfrew. He owns Brown Dog Tackle Company. I'm hoping he gets in. I just went out of the first stream and went into the second one again. Jim G, invite me as a guest star. Uh, so bass opening a bass season is coming up here this week. I don't know, Friday, Saturday. I'm not sure. It's the 15th nowadays. Um, I got the volume turned all the way up. I'm not sure now what could be going on with volume. Oy vey. Ian owns Brown Dog Tackle, and they make a couple different products that are, I say specifically for bass fishermen, but they're not. He manufactures one of the nicest, if not the nicest, Alabama rig on the market, and many a walleye on this lake and every other has been caught on his stuff. Um, so again, I'm not 100% sure what's got Ian stymied. I can't help him because I'm on my phone, and I don't know what else. Uh, Technology is great. Yeah, technology. So anyway, it's bass season. You know, it's funny. The bass opener used to have a little more meaning because you weren't legally allowed to fish for bass in the old days until the opener. You know, you couldn't go out and do catch and release. And now, on pretty much every body of water in this state, minus a few here or there, you can bass fish year round. Um, and I don't know that there's a whole group of people clamoring to go out and catch and keep and eat bass, although I grew up my whole young life on the St. Lawrence River with my grandparents in Cape Vincent, and we ate a weekly diet of perch and smallmouth. Didn't catch many walleyes up there in those days, at least not throughout the course of the year, later in the season. I know the thought of eating bass would make some people go, oh, that's the worst, but it's really not. It's delicious. Smallmouth. I'm not a huge fan of largemouth, although I've eaten it many times. Um, Smallmouth, especially depending on where you catch them, are delicious. It's white, it's flaky, it's no different than really any other kind of fish. Um, but the only difference now with the opening of bass season is that you can keep bass if you'd like. And I think that's also the start of the official tournament season where you can, I guess, keep them in your live well long enough to, because I don't know if they can still do, used to be in the old days, they did paper tournaments, what they called paper tournaments before bass season opened. Um, so I'm not sure that the opening day of bass fishing season has nearly the cachet like opening weekend of walleye or opening day of walleye season does. It's a different situation, I guess. Um, most all of your guys that go, that were fishing in Walleye Fest took their catch home, I would think, and had walleye tacos and fried, and fish fry. Um, so I think that puts a little different spin on opening day of bass season. It was always Father's Day weekend. That won't be the case anymore. It'll be close, but that won't always be the case. Um, so Ian and I, and we'll do this again. We'll figure this out. I don't know. Did, I did all the prompts. We did it last week with Brian Hammond. I'm not sure what's going on, but um, we'll figure it. We'll figure it out. Um, I wanted to talk with him about his tackle company, and we will. And like I said, we'll get all this stuff figured out. So I'm not sure that, like I say, that opening a bass season means the same now for all the guys that are going up to Region Six waters up St. Lawrence and whatnot. Um, they have not legally been able to go out and catch and release fish, catch and release bass fish until whenever it opens. Like I say, it's the 15th, so whatever day, I don't even know what day today is. Um, those guys that are going to go up there, that will be a little more of an exciting opening day because, and up there, you're still going to have a lot of fish in the spawning process, and I'm sure guys will be beating up the banks opening morning looking for that big pre-spawn. Right now, I mean, the biggest smallmouth in the area are coming out of eastern Lake Ontario, northeastern Lake Ontario, and the St. Lawrence River system. And a fish that goes 7+ pounds in the summer pre-spawn, you would think that would pack on another pound or two, and now all of a sudden we're talking about state record category. And if you're like me, I don't ever get me wrong, guys. You know, I've had some people say, oh, you should only talk about walleye fishing and nothing else, and that's not me. I fish for everything my whole life. Um, Professionally for a lot of stuff. Um, I've been guiding since I was 20 something years old, 22 years old. So for me, part of the joy is you've seen me do saltwater stuff. I'll continue to do that. But smallmouth bass are near and dear to my heart. Is near and dear to my heart as the walleye and the perch. I grew up on this lake, and since day one, this lake has always been full of smallmouth, just like walleye. So, and then living on the St. Lawrence, my young life with my grandparents, that was smallmouth central up there, even in those days. Now they weren't nearly as big as those behemoths are up there now, but still we had them, and I live and breathe smallmouth bass fishing. So anybody watching me going, I'm not sure what's going on. Why are you talking about bass? That's why I'm talking about bass, because smallmouth bass rule. Whether you want to eat them or not, to me, that's all an irrelevant conversation. You guys do whatever you want within the confines of the legal whatever. Like I say, I grew up eating smallmouth. I'd eat it again. Um, do I kill any of them nowadays? And do most people? No, I don't think so. But like I said, you could. You have every legal right to, as long as you have your fishing license. Um, Tim Cook, I love smallmouth. Best fight, pound for pound. I'm with you, brother. I am with you. So let's go quick. We haven't been live in a while. Let's go back and see tons and tons of people here. Merlin Deja Vu, Dave Muldoon, Danny Diamond, Rumble Seat, Drop Shot, Gary Walters, Just Paul Taylor, Jim Carker, John Burroughs, Scott Duranda, Rumble Seat. It sounds like I'm singing an opera. Tim Graver, Jim G. Eric Gorman, hello neighbor. Scott Lee's technology. Thomas Monica, no sound. That's because it was my brain frying there, Tom. Tom tuned in. Tom, I think, used to be Ian's old fishing partner, but Ian's not able to get on for whatever reason. So we're going to do this for a few more minutes, and we're going to call it a night, and we will reschedule with Ian when we can figure out what's going on. Don Terry Bass opening day was a big deal when I was growing up. I agree, because you couldn't, you couldn't go fishing before the season opened for them, but in those days, the only thing, well, really the only thing they do in the spring and early summer before Walleye opened was perch. All right, let's see here. Let's see if I can. Davey Hoover, Chris Bryan. Yeah, Chris, you're right. For many people, walleye season is the start of the open water season for the year, and I agree with that completely. And I used to always remember opening day out here when I was a kid, and even if it was warm, it was still cold. The water was still cold. Some years you had snow that was still, possibly creeping around. I've hunted opening day of turkey season in the snow, so I don't know if I remember fishing an opening day of walleye season in the snow, but I've been in some cold, nasty, windy ones. I can tell you that much. Let's see here. Keith Horns, what's up, my brother? Eric Gorman, I'll get my boat back next weekend. Yeah, Eric Wisniewski, how you doing, Wiz? With any luck, I talked to the gentleman yesterday about my boat, and he said he was going to be up to, I don't know what day today is. Today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He said he can be up Thursday to look at it. So I may have my boat back the weekend. We can always hope. All right. Well, there's that famous saying that did not go as planned. What are you gonna do? Lemons. Let me introduce you to lemonade. I think that's it. Like I say, we'll get. This is going to be a regular Tuesday night thing. We will get these glitches figured out. I'll get Ian rescheduled, maybe even for next week. But every Tuesday night, I'm going to go through my network of contacts, fishing contacts that I know, and try to keep it interesting and mix it up and do some of these live interview type meet and greets, with everybody. And I like this idea. This is going to be a regular Tuesday night thing. last week with Brian Hammond was great. And whether we highlight tackle manufacturers, tackle shops, um, people in the fishing industry, that kind of stuff. Wait, look at this. What's up, buddy?
I just told I should have known better than to do this without my wife. Not good, man. Not good.
That's awesome, man. That's all. Well, good. Listen, I was just getting ready to say goodnight to everybody and told them we were going to reschedule, and now you're here. So let's jump right in, and everybody's still here, so that's awesome. I'd like to introduce you to Ian Renfrew, owner Brown Dog Tackle Company. Ian, it's a pleasure to have you on, buddy.
Oh, it's good to be here, man.
That's funny. I was stressing. I'm like, man, it worked with Brian last week. I'm not sure what's going on, but
Well, first off, anything to do with me and passwords are not good.
I'd be so easy to hack because I have the same password for everything because it's the only one I can remember. So it's amazing how many passwords we have in our life. Well, let's jump in. We got bass opener this weekend, and we were talking of while we were kind of waiting, I was talking about opening day of bass season doesn't really have that same kind of grip on people as like say walleye season does because people you can fish for bass year round. First of all, now, and two, it's now tournament wise. Is it still the case where before the season opens they can only do the paper tournament and not transport fish?
Yeah, they're still doing paper tournaments. I kind of wish they wouldn't. But,
Okay.
You know.
But then now that the season's open, when it opens, they can you can put fish in your live well and take them and do whatever.
We'll be bringing them to the scale.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's not. I don't know how many of the average people are going out bass fishing anymore on opening weekend with the intent of keeping fish. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but that's not really what bass fishing is anymore.
There's plenty of walleye in that lake and perch. We can leave the bass alone.
And I was saying, I grew up in the St. Lawrence River, and I mean, smallmouth were a steady diet every week. If you were going to do a fish fry, it was perch and it was smallies. They eat plenty good. It's really not what people do much anymore. So then, with that being said, and now this is kind of the start of the tournament season. Where are we at in the lake and in the time frame? This weekend, I'm sure there's going to be tournaments all over the place out there.
Yeah, and I know they got at least three going on the shores, and a couple other small ones going around. But the lake's fishing phenomenal. I fished all day today, and it's kind of the time of year when you can fish the way you want it. You get into that mid to late summer pattern, and if you're not throwing a net or a drop shot, you're not going to get that. But right now, you can do whatever.
So let's talk about what you do, what your company does. Tell everybody what you guys make and how that plays into now, like through the rest of the season.
Yeah, so we make obviously Alabama rigs, and we do a lot of stuff with marabou jigs. And right now the bite on both of them is fine. So, but it's kind of like a 1-2 punch, The A rig. Some days you're not going to get a ton of bites on it, but you're going to get the better quality fish. And the marabou's a lot like that too. You will catch small fish on it, but you get a lot of real good quality.
And those are two presentations that are on opposite sides of the spectrum. I mean, one is a ultra uber finesse presentation with those marabou jigs made famous by Seth Feider, correct? I mean,
yeah.
Really the one that
I think a lot of guys were throwing him for a lot of years, but he definitely made it famous.
He won with them, and people caught on quick. But that's as uber finesse as you can get. And then on the other side is a real power program in the A rig, which for those that don't know is the Alabama rig, and that's. Do you have one handy
Yeah. Yep.
to show? Don't break the
So
rod.
that's what we're talking about. A lot of hardware.
A lot of hardware. So
That's the one I was tossing today. Got it rigged up with Exxon mini slammers and perch patterns just because they've been feeding on perch. So
oh my God, on the live scope today, fishing with a friend of mine. Um, I mean, you were watching. You could see small bait, and then you could see larger bait come in, and that larger bait is perch. I mean, but that's how did you end up as a company being on such opposite ends of the spectrum with your two baits?
I mean, why I started making baits was because I couldn't get the quality that I wanted in the baits we were fishing. So with the A rig, I mean, there's a million of them out there. We just made ours a little bit stronger with better components. And with the Marabou, I got one sitting right here. I don't know if you've ever unboxed a box of fireflies, but there's no Marabou on them. The things are tiny, but ours, that's a big old puffball right there. So,
Yeah.
it gives a little bit more body in the water.
Yeah, well, you just brought it up. You said you started doing this because you couldn't get what you were looking for. Um, that's also like, how did you get from making them to really getting into manufacturing them? I mean, we're pretty blessed in Central New York. There's a lot of small local tackle companies. You and I have talked about this that are putting out really high end products. Um, we're very blessed in our area in about 4 or 5 different species because you have the same kind of ecosystem up around Lake Ontario for the salmon and trout trollers, and then you have the same stuff around. Great Lake Steelhead Company is making beads. Crowcapper makes beads. They make Marabou steelhead jigs. So like we've got a lot of people around here that are making really nice stuff. Um, but making something for yourself and then taking that leap into owning a business and really manufacturing stuff. How did that come about?
I mean, I'm pretty super meticulous with my tackle, so I'm always tinkering with stuff and trying to make things better. And the problem with having a tackle addiction like I have is that you need a way to support. So being able to sell some of the stuff I make it was pretty much necessity.
right, right. Isn't that the truth? We it doesn't matter who you fish with. I was fishing with a buddy of mine today, and he goes, "I got too much stuff. I got too much stuff in the boat. I got too much stuff with me." And I don't know many of us that aren't guilty of that anymore. I mean,
It's been nice all walleye season. I got about 2-3 rods on the deck and very, very limited tackle on the boat. And then yesterday I spent the better part of the day just loading up the Phoenix with every lure I own. Today I had about 20 rods on the front of the deck. Here we go again.
My wife busts my chops endlessly about, do I leave anything in the garage or is everything I own in the boat? I'm like, usually everything I own's in the boat. I want to make sure that I never find myself unprepared, but then I suppose you can overthink everything, we were talking about that the other day, how at some point you got to hunker down, you got to fish something that you have confidence in a spot you have confidence in, and ride it out until you start catching a couple fish. We all want to get stuck into that roulette wheel of, well, I'm just one change away from Pandora's box opening and catching every fish in the lake, and that's just not the case. I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, it's rare that you're ever, especially when you're down to like your 6th or 7th option. How would that's down there for a reason? I've caught a few fish on it maybe, and then you're spinning your wheels, and this is, you know, we get into that a lot, I think, more than we need to.
Yeah, you really need to fish your strength. And like I said earlier, this is the time of year on a night when you can fish the way you want to.
Right, right. These guys this weekend per se, these guys fishing the tournaments could be fishing 50 different ways. And
Oh yeah, you're gonna have guys up fishing docks and flipping toolies and for largemouth, and you're gonna have guys out 12, 14 foot of water fishing smallies, and it's
yep, and everywhere in between.
oh yeah. You always wonder, that the fishing's tough for you when you're fishing a tournament, and then you get in and everybody calls, and it's like, wow.
Um, so what are these guys gonna? We just talked about it briefly, but what are these guys going to like? Are there any big ones going out this weekend?
I don't know about this weekend, but we'll be getting ready next week for catching rods the following Saturday. So.
How many boats will be in that caching tournament?
They usually draw 70, 80 boats, sometimes more.
Wow, wow.
So.
So in the old days, it was green fish. You had to have 5 green ones to win, and now is that still the case? Is that not the case anymore?
They kind of went away for a couple of years, which made me a little happy. But now last year during the opening, they kind of reared their big green ugly heads again. So um, I think it'll probably take a mixed bag to win that tournament, or one of the guys that are really good on largies will come in with 5 big largies.
Really, really. Now, do the product lines that you make? I mean, do they play into largemouth fishing?
Oh yeah. We catch a lot of the big largies on the A-rig. The marabou, not so much. That's pretty much a smallmouth specific deal. But the A-rig, when you find them on it, they're the right ones.
Okay, well, and like you said, that's a lot of stuff going through the water. How many walleyes on a tournament day are you catching on that A-rig?
Too many.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, usually we catch them. I mean, some days are better than others, but when you get a walleye on the rig, it's usually one of the better quality.
Well, and I would assume if you're fishing those largemouth in and around the grass, I mean, I had Brian Hammond on this Tuesday night special last week talking about his worm harness rigs, his castable, his hammer rigs, and so if you now would you throw that A rig above those weeds, or do you have to be outside of a weed line to really throw that comfortably?
No, it'll go above. I mean, you just gotta weight it. If you want to keep it up in the water column, you use lighter heads or whatever. But
Okay.
typically for the walleyes, I want to keep it down a little bit lower in the water column.
Okay. What and we just had a question here. I know the answer to this, but I'll have you talk about. We'll start with the A rig. What kind of rig are you throwing that with?
So I got a 7 foot 6 inch G Loomis. It's their UBR rod. It's made for throwing Alabama rig.
Okay.
Big rod, big handle, big reel, real wide spool so you can cast that thing mile.
Like
You got to have the right setup for an A rig. If you don't have the right rod and reel, it ain't gonna work.
right. I learned that last year when I fished with you and Larry, and it was a lot of stuff going through the air. It was. And
Yep.
so that Loomis rod is what's the action and taper on it?
It's
Medium heavy.
Oh, there go all the rods. Yeah, they just call it a fast action, but it's their 915 UBR rod.
Yeah.
It's a technique specific rod. It's not too. A lot of guys want to throw it on a flipping stick or something like that, but you really need the softer tip so it loads up and can really throw that thing.
You
And then when the fish do eat it, you don't want it just tearing their mouth up.
Right. Those flipping sticks are like broom handles. They don't have any.
No.
They don't have any action at all. But now, what about line?
Always 20-pound fluoro.
Straight from the reel right to the
Yep,
right
that's
to the
it.
head.
We played around with braid at first and all that stuff, but the fish usually hit it so aggressively, and they'll tear a hole in their mouth, and then they'll come off easier. So that fluoro gives it a little bit of shock absorption.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So then let's switch gears 180 degrees and let's talk about the throwing the marabou jig. What are you throwing that on?
I'm going to be throwing that on, so it'll be a 10-pound braid, 2-pound diameter.
Yep.
And then I just run like, I don't get crazy with throwing a light leader on that. I throw an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. It doesn't matter. I tried lighter ones, but that thing ain't really doing nothing in the water. It's just kind of coming straight in. So
Right.
the line size doesn't bother them. But you want that lighter braid because you're really trying to get that thing out away from the boat to them fish that are just cruising. If they see a boat, the deal's done.
How long a leader are you running on that?
I throw just enough so when you're casting, you're not getting that knot down in the reel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I've seen guys, they say they use big long leaders, but it just never seems to cast good off my reel.
I agree. And you're throwing that on spinning gear, obviously.
Yeah, yep.
Now, is there spinning gear heavy enough and set up enough to where you could throw the A rig on spinning gear? Have you ever seen anybody do that?
I'm sure there might be something, but it wouldn't be. You know the way bait casting reels are geared and stuff. It's just
Right.
that's the way you want to fly.
I just thought of that. I'm like, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure you could. Just a matter of anything will work. But I didn't know if that was
Yeah.
something that anybody did. I would think you'd get more distance.
I've seen it done, but yeah.
Huh. Now, fishing. Let's go to the finesse side of life, and you pull up into an area and you're going to throw that marabou, and you're looking for those cruising fish. But where are you throwing that, and how heavy are those marabou jigs? Those are 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce.
So we make 16, 3/32, and 1 piece.
Wow.
And I always used to try to go. The calmer it was, the lighter. The lightest one I could get away with is what I throw. And you throw that thing out there, you throw it as far as you can, and you just slow roll it back to the boat. But lately I've been experimenting with the 8 ouncer. I can reel it a little faster. So I've kind of been liking it a little bit more lately.
What kind of water are you fishing that in? Depth wise or cover wise, or you throwing that to open shoals, or you throwing that over weeds?
Yeah, anywhere from 2 to 10, 12 foot of water, I'd say at the deepest is about what typically though, I'm going to be like 10 foot or less. Not a lot of grass, some scattered grass, but you're not looking for thick grass or anything.
Right.
And it's just some areas they get up on after they spawn, and it's hard bottom, and they're not really locked on anything. They just cruise through them areas. And you're not looking to see them first. You're trying to get that bait as far away from the boat as possible.
Now, I know you have live scope on your boat. Do you use
Yep.
that in conjunction with it? Are you seeing fish out there and casting the specific ones, or you're fan casting an area?
Yeah. I'm fan casting an area. It's not really. I personally am not using live scope doing it, but there could be some guys doing it, but it's shallow enough where I'm just fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know the areas we're going to be in that time of year, and you just fish down like pretty good length stretches.
And I'm assuming you get a lot of crossover with that too, with unwanted walleyes when you're looking for smallmouth in there.
On occasion.
Yeah.
They typically the walleyes are going to be. I mean, these are pretty open areas you're fishing at Maryland. And them eyes this time of year, they want to be more toward that grass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're starting to see him. It's amazing that grass came up fast. At least it seemed like it did. And one day it wasn't there, and the next day it was damn near at the surface. And I've seen it out to 13, 14 feet already.
Yeah.
So, um, as far as both of these techniques go for smallmouth that you make, are you going to fish that all the rest of the season up until ice out, um, or ice up? Is that something? Do they both play all season long?
I mean, the marabou's a real strong player this time of year. I mean, the fish is, some fish are probably still up on some beds in a couple areas, but I'd say 95% of the fish are done. And they just get in that mode where they just cruise them shallows, I mean, eventually the smallies there's always a population of fish shallow, but
Yeah,
eventually that kind of wears down. But the A-rig, I mean, that's right straight through.
right straight through. And then I would think in the fall it gets even better.
It's a killer. It's a killer ball.
Yeah. Now, in what is your normal depth range that you're throwing that A rig in? And I know before you answer that, I know Larry told me some incredible depths he fishes them down to in Lake Erie. What is your standard depth range that you're throwing that
That's hard to say. I mean, it typically, typically I'm looking like that 12 to 14 range or whatever, but the later the summer wears on, then fish get deeper. You're going to be out there fishing it on a night in 20 foot or, a little bit deeper than that. But I'm looking for them on grass edges and stuff like that. So I'm going to be up 12, 14 foot.
in? Okay, okay, well, that makes sense. Well, man, I think I don't know what else we got, Ian. I know you and I have talked already, and you're not just a bass guy. We have plans to do a walleye technique video here very soon, and you're a big fan of jerkbait fishing for walleyes, and that's what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I did a bunch of it today.
yeah, talk a little bit about your walleye tournament fishing life. Like I know you fish Wednesday nights, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I started walleye fishing tournaments a while back with my good buddy Tom. And he really taught me a lot about fishing walleyes on the right lake and the shallow water, buddy.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stuff me and my dad didn't know about. And that jerk bait deal, you're targeting big fish. You're not always going to catch a ton of them, but you're usually going to get the right bites. And this year on a night, I kind of summarized the walleye deal as being consistently inconsistent. I've had a couple of good tournaments this year, and then I had one of my worst tournaments. But I think things are turning. I think they're heading in the right direction. We got the Phoenix riding.
Well, there's been a lot of mixed reviews on this year's walleye season so far from a lot of different people, from a lot of different skill levels. During Walleye Fest opening weekend, boy, everybody I talked to was I shouldn't say that. Most everybody I talked to were like, "Oh, we caught a ton of fish, just no big ones." Well, in a big fish derby, it is what it is. You got to cycle through those fish until you land on one that's a good one. You're only looking for one. But the overwhelming consensus I thought was everybody had a pretty good tournament. That they all caught fish and they just were smaller. Okay, great. But boy, as the seasons went on, had a little bit of weird weather, but it's been very hit or miss depending on who you're talking to. And like one day you're on them, and the next day they're not there in the same spot anymore, which is unusual out here. I mean, typically you get on a school and you can kind of ride them for sometimes weeks, but know too many people. I know a couple guys you're seeing them post on a daily basis. They must be on them because they're, so people do have them figured out. But I think as a whole, it's been a little challenging.
Yeah, I mean they're usually pretty well behaved when you find them. They'll stay there for a while. I mean, I had a couple areas last year. We had a milk run, and every Wednesday night or whatever, we kind of bounced 2, 3 different spots, and we catch them every night. And this year, it's like you make one drift, you catch a good one, and you go back and do the same drift 2, 3 times, and you never get another bite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now, when you said your jerkbait program is shallow, how shallow? 0 to 5 or 10 and under, or like how shallow are you
I mean,
throwing these?
there's times when we get them up in 6, 8 foot, but now the grass has come up so heavy in those areas that they kind of push out with the grass. So I mean, that's why I like this time of year. I'm fishing for walleyes and practicing for bass at the same time.
Right, right. And like you said, they live in the same spots, right? I mean, now are you only when you're jerk baiting? Are you only throwing stick bait style jerk baits? Or are you throwing soft plastics as well?
No, just only stick bait.
Stick baits.
Yeah, I got one right here. Let me grab it.
Okay. Boy, I didn't. We've been talking this whole time. I didn't really notice. Those are two beautiful bucks behind you.
There's a couple of them in here.
Are those local or are those? I know you go out of town and out of state quite a bit.
That one there I shot last year in Kansas,
Oh, okay.
but I won't be doing that this year because I didn't get my tag.
And where was that?
Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. A couple people might be mad at me, but that jerk bait right there is the only one you need on my leg.
Ah,
That's the
that's the
Mega Bass plus one, 110 plus one, and that one got abused last Wednesday night. So he's missing a little paint.
That's perch collar.
That's a perch. Yep.
Yep.
GG perch or something they call it. That's the one.
And so you're throwing that on a bait caster as well.
Yep. This is a 610 Shimano Electric Pride. It's probably one of the best bait rods on the market.
So what's the
Shimano Corrado,
okay.
MGL high speed reel, 12-pound fluorocarbon.
So what's the action that you're looking for in the jerkbait rod?
They call this one a medium heavy. It's got a soft enough tip where it loads up pretty good, and it's got enough backbone to fight the fish. But you need the soft tip, but you can't be too soft because you want to be able to gun that thing out there.
Right.
But definitely not a sip rod.
Okay.
And it's a 610, and that's critical. You can't be having a long rod.
Just because of tip down and
Yep.
how you're working the bait.
Yep. The way that bait's designed, you need to be jerking toward the surface of the water all the time. I mean, me and my buddy who fished Walleye Wednesday, we fished one last year, and I think I caught like 30 walleyes, and he caught one. Fortunately, it was a 4-pounder, so I let him stay around. But he had a 7'1" rod, and he was sweeping it to the side instead of tip down. The next week, he bought the right rod, and he was in business.
So why? So when you're snapping that straight down, you're pulling that lure straight. It's deflecting this way, as opposed to
it's doing like
it's coming straight down like that.
Yeah, and you're trying to drive that thing as deep into the water column as you could possibly get.
Interesting. It's
I mean, they say these things dive like 10 feet, but you watch it on a live scope and it's like 6, 7 foot down.
tops, right, right. So it changes the way it deflects if you sweep it parallel, or yeah, parallel.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Well, there's a tip right there for people. Um,
And I mean, these walleyes this time of year, they're getting into that mood where I'm fishing that thing as violently as possible. If you're not, if your wrist and elbow and you ain't got blisters on your fingers at the end of the day, you ain't fishing right.
Boy, and that's the truth. You talked about that when we talked the other night, and you're like, yeah, listen, you want to throw a jerkbait, great, but it's not just something you throw 5 times and catch 5 fish. And
No,
like you said, if you're not tired and your arm's not killing you, you're not getting bit because you're not obviously doing that motion that those fish want. That's fascinating right there. That's a great tip. I mean, um, is that the same if you were going out throwing jerkbait looking for bass too right now? Are those bass in that same all out mode? So every
yeah,
time that
yeah.
rod loads up, you're not quite sure.
Well, you are, because the walleyes, we call them a wet sock. So
They just load it up.
when one really hits it, you know it's a bass. But when the rod just loads up and you drag it in, me and my partner call, yeah, wet sock, get the net.
Yeah, the walleye's blessed with a lot of things, but the overwhelming desire to fight like a smallmouth is not one of them. That's for sure. So, um, I just had another question on the tip of my tongue about throwing a jerk bait.
Yeah,
You
definitely
gotta.
the rod, reel, line, it's critical with that bait.
So what about a setup to throw one on a spinning rod?
I'd be looking for a similar, 6'10". I wouldn't go any longer than that. Nice 2500 series Stradic or something like that. And the problem is you're not gonna want to fish 12-pound line on a spinning reel.
Right.
So you would have to go to a braid or a fluorocarbon leader, and you're not gonna get that. The fluorocarbon sinks, which helps the action with the bait. And if you got it, you got it, but it's
Right.
the preferred way of doing this on a bait catcher.
Okay. Okay. Um, that's interesting. That's fascinating stuff. And for Walleye Wednesdays, is that your pretty much go to throughout the whole season? Is you guys are throwing jerk baits on Wednesday night?
We've thrown them every week so far, yeah. So the first week we struggled a little bit because the fish just it takes a couple weeks for them to get out there, but we just commit to it, and that's the way I want to fish. And I'm getting to the point where I'm old enough now where I'm stubborn and I want to fish the way I want to fish.
No, but and you tell people this, and I try to tell people this too. You go fish how you are confident in and how you want to fish. And our lake is really fantastic to where you can pretty much go and do any technique you want and find a group of fish to do it with them. I'm sure there's plenty other lakes. I mean, I get a little homerish in these kind of moments, but we really have a resource here that's second to none, certainly in our state. I mean, for what we do, there's a lot of other good fisheries, but well, you can do whatever you want here, really, for about 4 different species, pretty much all season long and during open water. And I don't know that a lot of places can say that. I mean, you could, like you said, this weekend, you could have guys flipping docks or out in 30 foot of water, seeing if any of those smallies are out there schooled up looking for bait. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool that you have that much versatility in a 20 mile long stretch of lake.
Yeah, I was jerk baiting this morning, and probably like 100 yards to the north of me, there was flotilla boats all, jigging in 20-something foot of water. So just goes to show you, 500 yards south,
Well,
totally different technique.
absolutely, and everybody could be catching fish and having a banner day. You know, Christ, you can have two people in the same boat doing different things and both be successful in the same school of fish, which is something that I always try to drive home to people. Don't get locked in. Don't play. It's just as bad to play the let's change every three cast game as it is to never change and only go to the same spot and only do the same thing all the time. There's other ways to skin the cat, whatever it may be. That's well, buddy. I think let's call it a night. I want to
Sorry
thank
for
you.
my delayed entry.
No problem. We got a lot of great things to talk about. I'm gonna put I'll put your links and to everything down in the description if anybody wants to get a hold of Ian and look at what he has to offer. Um, I'll put all that in the description when we're done. But I thank you very much for joining me this evening, and we'll talk soon because we got to schedule our jerkbait trip. I'm gonna tape all my fingers so I don't get blisters. All right, buddy. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
And we'll go out on a high note. Keep your tip up till we see each other again. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon, bud. Thanks everybody for joining me tonight and Ian, and have a great evening. I look forward to seeing all you guys tomorrow. Let's see here. That's why they call it fishing and not catching. Mike Master, you are right. All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, friends of all ages, I will see you from out on the water tomorrow morning. And as always, have a great evening and keep your tip up.